Hello, everybody. My name is Elisa DiCristina, independent wellbeing educator, former LCSW, and author of Raising Preteens Right, a 3-year personal development program where we help preteens and teens build mental wealth and vitality in their personal development. Raising Preteens Right is a 3-year program with 9 chapters a year. The first year introduces the foundations to personal development. The second year expands upon the themes. And the third year introduces more complexity and independent study so that preteens have a 3-year structured skill-building personal development program so that they can really learn to flourish in what we call the second window of opportunity during their cognitive explosion of neuroplasticity in brain growth development. It's really important that we build mental wellness and vitality to counteract the diminished skills. Overuse of screens has really affected our children, and we want to make sure that during the preteen years, we're focusing on solutions, teaching them how to self-navigate and flourish from a biopsychosocial spiritual perspective. This program is holistic. We want to look at what's happening physically, emotionally, socially, mentally, and spiritually. How do they build a strong sense of self when they're about to go into their identity formation years? Very important that parents, teachers, youth pastors, community organization leaders, we get on board, we don't work in silos, and that we lift up the next generation and teach them the skills that they need to flourish. So with that being said, we're in chapter 20 today. It's in the middle of the book. On Upstander and truth. How do we develop being an upstander within our preteen years and teen years? We want to always self-motivate our young people from within and really work on that autonomy or internal locus of control so they feel self-motivated to make the right choice. This really ties in directly to developing that sense of truth within, honesty, leaning on what is true, right, pure, noble within your heart, not leaning on what's truth in the external world, which a lot of for this age is going to be, of course, digital entertainment, social media, what their peers are saying, what their peers are doing, that peer pressure that they feel. We want to help them build that sense of self so they really can stand on the truth and build a healthy life, fulfilling life, a life filled with purpose and meaning. Unfortunately, a lot of our young people now are relying on artificial intelligence and chatbot for their truth and for their mental health advice. They're Googling and their emotional support. 18 million young people and young adults are relying on AI chatbots. We focus on chapter 20 on building that truth and being an upstander. How do we get our young people to counterbalance the fear of being criticized by their peers or believing the lies that they're not good enough or feeling left out or not feeling a part of, not feeling like they belong, believing the lies when other people criticize them or tear them down? How do we move away from that harassment and peer pressure and intimidation and all that unhealthiness that we see going on that leaves our young people feeling like they're not good enough and inadequate? That's when they wind up starting to have anxiety or depression, or I wind up in the past talking to many young people in the emergency room in a crisis that they just simply feel worthless, that managing that day-to-day stress, going to school or what their peers are telling them or believing in the lies. How do we get them to move away from the lies and the untruths and into the truth and into the freedom of the truth? That's what this chapter focuses on. We educate the preteen about negative social bonding and how when you tear people down, that negative social bonding can occur and that there's numbers in that, right? There's numbers in tearing somebody else down and criticizing them, and that no one wants to be the upstander to the person doing the criticizing because then they're afraid that they're going to get torn down. So it's easier not to be an upstander, to be quiet, almost like to live in the lie by omission, not to stand in the truth and not to stop some of the lies or the harms we see to others. We understand that it's very hard to stand up. And how do we implore our young people to have personal development skills so that they're not afraid to stand up for the truth and they don't believe in that toxic bonding and aggressive behavior from their peers. We go into what it means to live in the truth in this chapter, and that will set them free, and that rock, standing on that rock, and how to develop that spiritual relationship is going to be of utmost importance in the upcoming years, so they don't lose how they want to shape their sense of self and identity formation during their teenage years. That's secondary compared to what's going on inside of their truth, their values, their morals. How are we going to stand in that spirit of truth and make decisions on their inner values, not the outer or external, digital or face-to-face lies and deceptions that are coming at them from all angles? Most people are lost. They're not aware. They don't have self-awareness. They're unconscious of what they're doing. They're projecting stuff on other people, right? How do we make them aware that these dynamics are happening and then teach them to feel more free and not personalize what other people are saying and take it to heart and have it affect their mental, social, emotional, and spiritual sense of development and well-being? So that's what this chapter focuses on. It's so important that we develop these meaningful conversations because our young people are getting lost. They're in the middle of a mental health crisis. We really need to lift them up and focus on well-being and not wait until they score on the anxiety or depression assessment at the pediatrician to realize there's a symptom and then start treating the symptoms, right? To give them wellness and well-being and coping skills and confidence and resilience when they're scoring a 0 to a mild or a moderate, where they don't need a mental health referral. They need to learn healthy personal development up front. That's like taking your child to the dentist and saying they don't have a cavity at their 6-month checkup and saying, okay, I guess you don't have to brush your teeth in between. That's ridiculous. That would be absurd. Of course, we want to teach people mental health wellness, social confidence, social bonding, spiritual wellness. Of course, we want to teach personal development. In between their wellness visit and their pediatrician, there's that hole, there's that gap in our system where we really need to start strategically teaching them structured skill building during that second window of opportunity. We implore you to check out our program, raisingpreteensright.com, and think about becoming a facilitator. This is the most important subject, personal development, that they're not getting in middle school or high school. It is so needed. They're coming into their preteen years with a deficit in personal development due to the digital era. And we need to do something to really reverse that and keep our young people healthy, filled with vitality, and flourishing. They need these skills. Please look at our website, raisingpreteensright.com. Thank you for watching.